Alright, this lesson is about the Pythagorean theorem and classifying triangles. Do the following side lengths create a triangle? If so, which kind? Show your work and explain your answer. Well, if these three lengths are going to form a triangle, then the two smaller lengths have to be more than the largest side. So at a glance we can tell that this will not form a triangle. Okay, so we can just say no, this will not form a triangle. But you can understand why it won't form a triangle. If this side is length 5, for example, alright, I always like to start with the biggest side. So if this is 5, and then so we have these other two lengths that are 4 and 1. Okay, and we're trying to make a triangle out of it. So say we've got this side is 4, and we've got this other little side that's 1. Oh man, colors, man. Alright, and so we're trying to understand if this is going to make a triangle. Well, the reason why this is not going to make a triangle is because, you know, as we move these closer together, trying to reach, then, you know, we've got 4 and 1. 4 plus 1 is 5, so that means they will reach each other, but just barely. There's nothing left over to make a triangle out of. So the only way that these will meet is if they are totally flat. Can't quite get the horizontal. So yeah, the only way that they'll meet is if they're totally flat. And you cannot make a triangle that's flat. Okay? So that's why the smaller two sides have to be more than the third side. So that's a no. Looking at this, if the largest side is 7, and then we have the smaller sides of 2 and 3, is that going to make a triangle? Well, 2 plus 3 is only 5. Okay, so these sides won't reach at all. If they try to reach, so there's my 7. Let me use different colors here. And here's my 2. And then here's my 3. Alright, they won't reach because 2 plus 3 is only 5. There's not enough length to make 7. So no, they're not going to make a triangle. What about number 3? Will these make a triangle? Well, the longest side length is 5, and then I've got another 5, and I've got a 4. Alright, could I make a triangle out of this? Yeah, 5 plus 4 is 9. So I can make a triangle out of that. As long as the smaller two sides are more than the biggest side, we're good. So yes, we can make a triangle out of it. Okay, and now let's ask ourselves, what kind of triangle can we make? Well, let's call this A, B, and C. C has to be the biggest. Since these two are the same, it doesn't really matter, but you know, we'll just call this one C. So yes, we can form a triangle because yes, we can form a triangle since the smaller two sides add up to more than the largest side. So that's what we have so far. Now let's decide what kind of triangle by doing a squared plus b squared and comparing it to c squared. So a squared plus b squared, that would be 4 squared plus 5 squared, And let's see how that compares to 5 squared. Alright, well, 4 squared plus 5 squared that is 41. Alright, so I've got 41, and let's see how that compares to 25. Well, obviously 41 is greater than 25. And we've learned that if a squared plus b squared is greater than c squared, then we've got an obtuse triangle. Okay, so it's obtuse. So let's add that on to our explanation. It is obtuse since a squared plus b squared is greater than c squared. Alright, and I guess we were supposed to explain on problem number 1 and 2 why it's not a triangle. Alright, in both 1 and 2 we can say the same thing. No, we cannot form a triangle since the two smaller sides do not add up to more than the largest side. And, you know, so we could say 1 plus 4 equals 5. Well, that's not good enough. It needed to be greater than 5. And here, showing our work, 2 plus 3 is less than 7. Alright, it needed to be greater than 7. Alright, let's move on. Two sides of a triangle have the following measures. Find the range of possible measures of the third side. Alright, well, let's think about it first. If we have sides length 6 and 10, okay, so let's draw that. I always like to start with the bigger one first. So let's say this is length 10. Okay, and then I've got another side that is length 6. What are the possibilities? Well, this will be at its largest. You know what, let me move this to the other side so I have more room to work. Okay. Alright, so I've got the 10 and the 6. If I want to make this as the third side is going to be basically stretching between these like so. Okay. Alright, so this black here, and let me make it a dotted line for a minute, because it's like a rubber band stretching between the 10 and the 6. Okay. Now, if I want to make this the biggest it can possibly be, this mystery side here, the third side, okay, if I want it to be the biggest, in fact, let's call it x because it's a variable. I can make it the biggest it can possibly be by opening this wide open. Alright, like the wider it gets. So let me go to here for a second. So you can see this is pretty wide. Put my 6 down here now. Alright, so you can see by opening this up wider, I've now made this much longer. Okay, so now it's like this. So it's getting wider and wider. The more I open this like a door, the longer this third side is going to be. But the at its widest, if I were to open this all the way until it is a horizontal line, okay, now I can't make a triangle anymore, but just you can I want you to see what's happening. What would be the length of this dotted side, what would be the length of x if I really did stretch it flat, wide open like this? Okay, that would make x be 16 at this point. Alright, because this is fully wide open, so it's 10 plus 6. Now, you can't really make a triangle this big, because if it's flat like this, you can't make a flat triangle. Alright, so we know that this 16 is the upper limit. So we could say that the x value has to be less than 16. Alright, there's no way that this side could ever be bigger than 16, because this is as wide as it gets. Alright, so let's just write that down. So x has to be less than 16. Okay, now let's go in the other direction. Okay, let me get this out of the way for a second. If I start to close this, alright, so I'm making it smaller again. So right here, alright, and here's my mystery value. So as I'm closing this like a door, alright, I'm treating this like a hinge, and I'm closing it, you can see x getting smaller. So x will keep getting smaller as I close this, as I move this in this direction. Alright, so let's take it to the extreme and see what happens if I close this all the way flat. Okay, so if I close this all the way flat, okay, and that's going to be like this. Just move it up a bit so you can see. So here I've closed it all the way flat. So here's my 6 and my 10. Now, can you tell me what the length of x will be now if it's closed all the way flat? How big is x if this is closed all the way flat? Well, maybe you can tell that this x now, if it's flat, this is going to be 4. Alright, because if it's flat, then these two would have to add up to the third side. So 4 plus 6 makes 10. So this would have to be 4. Now, you can't really make a triangle, again, when it's flat. There's no flat triangle. So we know that it has to be bigger than 4. Alright, this third side, we can't close it all the way flat. So if it were flat, it would be 4. But in reality, it's going to have to be something a bit bigger than 4. Okay, so we could say that x has to be greater than 4 and less than 16. Okay, in other words, putting it all together, if we see that 16 is the largest possible value, and in fact you can't quite get to 16, and if we see that 4 is the smallest value, and in fact you can't actually be 4 because that would make it flat, then we're seeing that what it is this third side has to be somewhere between 4 and 16, and we can express that as an inequality by saying 4 has to be less than x, which has to be less than 16. In other words, this third side, which we're calling x, is always going to have to be somewhere between 4 and 16. Okay? So that's a full explanation of where we're getting these numbers from. But in general, we're going to get this number by adding the two together. Alright? So like 6 plus 10 is going to give you the biggest number, alright, because that's what you get when you put it wide open, alright, then you're just adding these two numbers together, and you'll get the smaller two numbers, you get the smaller number by subtracting, right? So here if I go, and maybe I should write it the same way, okay, so if I did 10 plus 6, I get 16, alright, that's wide open. If I do 10 minus 6, that's going to give me the smaller number, because that's the number you get when you put it shut. Okay, it's like 10 minus 6. Okay, so I'm not going to go through that whole long explanation when I do this one. Let's use the shortcut that we discovered. Okay, so if I do if I do 8 plus 5 and 8 minus 5, okay, this will give me the upper limit, and this will give me the lower limit. Okay, so 8 plus 5 is 13, and 8 minus 5 is 3. Okay, so 13 is the upper limit and 3 is the lower limit. So that means this third side has to be between 3 and 13. So in other words, 3 is less than x, which is less than 13. Okay, that's the shortcut, but I think it was worth going through the explanation to try to really understand. Okay, now looking at this, what is the largest angle and how do you know? Well, we have a 90-degree angle right here. So that's going to be the largest angle. Alright, the angles in a triangle have to add up to 180 degrees. So you can't have another angle that's bigger than 90 degrees, because that 90 plus 90 is already 180. So if I do 90 and then I have anything bigger than 90, like say 91 for example, then that's going to be 181 degrees. That's too much. So 90 is as big as you can get. You can't have another angle bigger. Alright, so 90 degrees is the biggest angle. So 90 degrees is the largest angle because if there was another angle larger than 90 degrees, it would add up to more than 180. Alright, how about this one? Which angle is the largest angle? Well, it would have been helpful if they labeled the angles for us so we could identify it, but we know that the largest angle is across from the largest side. So since the largest side is 8, that's the largest side, so that means this is the largest angle. Okay, so, and I'm just going to say this is the largest angle because it's across from the longest side. Okay. Number 8. Which side is the largest? Explain your reasoning. Well, again, the largest side is across from the largest angle. Okay, so the largest angle is 80. So that means it's going to be across from the largest side. So, okay, so we can say BC is the longest side because it is across from the largest angle. Okay, number 9. First of all, let's find the missing angle. So, I mean, it looks pretty small, but just to be on the safe side. We know that all the angles of the triangle have to add up to 180 degrees. So if I subtract these from 180, it should leave me this one. So if we do 180 minus 82 minus 72, that should give us the x here. So let's see, 82, 72. So if I do 180 minus 82 minus 72. I get 26. Okay, so that tells me that this is a 26-degree angle. Okay, so the largest angle is across from the longest side. So the largest angle is 82 degrees. So it's going to be across from the longest side. Alright, and this triangle is not labeled like A, B, C or anything, so I'll just label right here and say this right here, this is the longest side since it is across from the largest angle. Okay, great. Similarly, we have 45, 45, and 90. So that makes this, and this time it is labeled. So AB is the longest side. Okay, I'm still gonna, you know what, let me not steal it. Let me cut and paste it. So instead of just saying this, now I can call it AB. So AB is the longest side since it is across from the largest angle. Alright, is that it for this lesson? Yeah, I think we did it. This lesson is over. I hope it was helpful. I will see you on the next video, my good people.